Well, I've got good news and I've got bad news. The bad news is that war is getting absolutely insane, especially in the Middle East. Things are getting really out of control, even with the Russia-Ukraine conflict. I mean, they're calling for a nuclear war in October. Zelensky's meeting with President Donald Trump, former and likely soon to be president once again. And then you have Israel absolutely flattening Lebanon, and that's not even the big strike, because that one, the big one, is about to happen tonight. That's the bad news. The good news is that we get to now go to all of our liberal friends, all of our NDP, woke radical friends, all the people that are supporting these wars, and we get to tell them to pack their bags, because they now have an opportunity to go fight the good fight and actually stand up for what they believe in. War, because NATO is saying, hey, Canada, pack your bags. It's time to fight a conventional war. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video, everybody. Whoa, scary times. Before we get into it, I do want to encourage you guys to smash the like button and subscribe if you haven't yet already. It does really help grow the channel. And hey, you never know, this might be the last time you get to hit that like button. Maybe it's time for some folks to pack their bags and go fight this war. All right, we got a lot to cover. I hope you stick around for the full thing, or as much as you possibly can. This entire video is going to be dedicated to this ongoing conflict and how Canada specifically is impacted, but also just the recent update of these insane bombings that took place earlier today. So here we go. Netanyahu is in New York at the UN General Assembly, and he gave a speech. And as he stood up to talk, this is the reaction from the crowd. People are walking out. People are walking out. You know, that's actually a better attendance than Justin Trudeau, because people don't show up when Justin Trudeau talks, but at least people stayed there to then walk out, and it was caught on camera. Next up, we have Donald Trump, who has already met with Zelenskyy. We're going to take a look at that in a moment, and then it's in at Trump Tower. So you've got snipers and cops and the whole shebang, as you can imagine. The whole 9 yards, right? People are on DEFCON 17, if that even is a real thing. And then here he is with Zelenskyy.
So we have a very good relationship. And I also have a very good relationship, as you know, with President Putin. And I think if we win, I think we're going to get it resolved very quickly. I really think we're going to get it resolved.
I hope we have more good relations.
We're going to have, oh, I see. Yeah, but you know, it takes two to tango.
Oh my goodness, Trump is just something else, eh? So Trump is saying that he has a good relationship with Putin. Zelensky's going, well, hold on a second. We have a better relationship, right? And Trump kind of laughs off, says, I see what you're trying to say. Yeah, it takes two to tango. That's kind of funny. And you can see in the comments here, Zelenskyy is scared. Look, perhaps he is, because Trump has been pretty open about the fact that he just wants the war to end. He doesn't want America to be sending billions of dollars to fund this war, because, you know, Russia is a major superpower. They got a lot of troops, they got a lot of ammunition, they got a lot of nuclear warheads, and nobody wants to see it escalate to that level. And it feels like the only real way for a path of de-escalation is through Donald Trump. But let me know what you guys think down below. And then you have this other question here that was asked by a reporter about if Donald Trump still thinks what he has said earlier in public comments, specifically on the live debate with Kamala, on whether or not he wants the war to end, or if he wants a certain side to win.
President Trump, have you changed your thoughts on how this war should end, what you think should be done, or do you still stand by some of the previous statements?
Well, I learned a lot, but I think I haven't changed from the standpoint that we both want to see this end, and we both want to see a fair deal made, and it's got to be fair, and I think that'll happen at the right time. I think it's going to happen. The president wants it to end, and he wants it to end as quickly as possible. He wants a fair transaction to take place, and I think I mean, right now I'm campaigning, so right now I don't have much to do with it, other than we're doing very well in terms of the campaign, and I've been saying that I believe if I win, we're going to have a very fair and I think actually rather rapid deal. It should stop, and the president wants it to stop, and I'm sure President Putin wants it to stop. And that's a good combination. So we want to have a fair deal for everybody.
What do you envision as fair?
Well, it's too early to say that. I mean, I have my own ideas, and I'm sure the president definitely has his own ideas, but it has to be fair.
This war shouldn't be started, and I think that the problem that Putin killed so many people, and of course we need to do everything to pressure him to stop this war, and he's on our territory. That is the most important to understand. He's on our territory, and how to stop the war, to pressure him as we can, as we can. We have to do it.
The majority of people just want this to end. And if the people had the ability to vote on which way the war went, you would have an overwhelming majority that would say, stop the war, just talk it out, figure it out, but no more innocent lives need to die. No more people in the military, no more death and destruction, because it really is getting out of hand. And now we're shifting a little bit from what's happening with, Putin and Ukraine to what's happening with Israel, or specifically the anti-Israel, anti-Jewish protests that are taking place here in Canada in support of Palestine, but also Hezbollah. Like it's getting kind of crazy. Here we go. Ottawa protesters have taken over a private cul-de-sac, a predominantly Jewish residential street with a Jewish community center, Jewish school, and a senior living home. Let's take a look. So how does this affect Canada? Well, these protests are erupting more and more and more, but specifically you got Canadian MPs that are chiming in. And then you also, within the Canadian politicians, there's a massive discrepancy in who supports what. Right? Melissa Lantsman, I believe Jewish MP for the Conservative Party, is sharing what seems to be the same, if not a similar area, just outside a Jewish seniors home in Ottawa. Not a consulate or an embassy, not a government building, not a politician's office, a Jewish seniors home.
First of all, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, والصلاة والسلام على نبينا المجاهد الشهيد وعلى آله وصحبه ومن جاهد جهاده إلى يوم الدين. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
And it's just crazy to see this happening at this level in Canada. And we're going to be taking a look at what some other members have to say. But you also have this, it's not just happening in Canada. You have this happening in New York, right? And they're waving Hezbollah and Hamas flags. And that's just crazy because both of those entities have been deemed terrorist groups unanimously by America, by Canada, by all other allied countries. And it just feels like if any other group tried to protest like this, it wouldn't be met with the same same resistance by politicians, by government. Freedom. Imagine a freedom protest where you bring out these smoke grenades and stuff like that, and you're waving that with flags. It's a clear bias, right? It just seems bizarre that all this is happening. And at the UN embassy, or at the UN meeting, here's what Netanyahu had to say.
Ladies and gentlemen, this war can come to an end now. All that has to happen is for Hamas to surrender, lay down its arms, and release all the hostages. But if they don't, we will fight until we achieve victory, total victory. There is no substitute for it. Ladies and gentlemen.
And so, of course, the New York protest that we saw was to protest Netanyahu outside in New York. And then you're taking a look at what other allied countries are saying about the situation, right? France and the U.S. pushed for a 21-day Hezbollah and Israel ceasefire, and this just happened the other day. Well, what we're going to take a look at momentarily is that they did not listen. They did not listen. There was no complying with a ceasefire. In fact, what happened earlier today is insane. But just to kind of switch a little bit back to what's happening within the Canadian ranks, here you have the Green Party leader, Elizabeth May. This is a clip from my other channel, House of Canada, where I stream Question Period live. So that's why I'm also down there wearing the same shirt, which is from a couple of days ago. I swear I did laundry. I swear I washed the shirt. Let's take a look at what Elizabeth May, the leader of the Green Party, used her time, her very limited 30 seconds to say at the end of a long, tedious, kind of boring question period, right? Once the meat and potatoes happens.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And on the same point, it's clear that world leaders have been calling out for the last year since the horrific attacks of October 7th for restraint and to control the conflict so it doesn't spread as it just is spreading into Lebanon. And we know who the enemy of peace is. Unfortunately, he has a name. He's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. And
whoa!
His political career and his...
And then she gets silenced by the chair, by the House Speaker, and then she is finally able to, finish her speech. And that's just crazy. That's crazy because you have Canadian politicians that are saying Netanyahu is a war criminal and he needs to stop. And then you have other Canadian politicians that are saying, no, Israel has the right to defend itself. And so within Canadian Parliament, you have two very opposing sides. And then you have articles like this from BBC from January 19th. So this has been going on for a very long time, where Trudeau's balancing act of Israel and Gaza, Israel and Hamas, Israel and Hezbollah, it's annoying both sides of the debate. And he's just pissing everybody off by allowing, all rhetorics to kind of take place. And then you have this Jewish Liberal MP, Anthony Housefather, who had said that he was going to quit. He said a long time ago, well, like 6 months or a year ago, said that he was going to quit because of all the anti-Semitism that's taking place in the House by either other Liberals or other NDP members, and he's just blown away at how much anti-Semitism there's going on. They've actually switched his role up, where he is like a ambassador for anti-Semitism. So he's staying in as a Liberal MP. It's kind of interesting, but let's take a quick look.
I wonder if you could tell me exactly when you made this decision. You've been reflecting for several weeks. When did you decide you were a Liberal to stay?
I have been reflecting and thinking about it very hard, and I really only made the decision in the last day or so. I had some extensive conversations with the Prime Minister over the last 3 days. And one of the things that we talked about, in fact, the thing that we talked the most about, was the fear and intimidation felt by Jewish Canadians, whether related to the demonstrations outside of Jewish community buildings and businesses, or alternatively, what's happening on college campuses. And I really had very, very painful discussions where we talked about what I felt was not enough action by the government. And he said, come work with me, come work with Deborah Lyons, play a leadership role on this file, and we will fix it. And I believe that if I'm involved, I will make a difference. I will work very, very hard with Deborah and the Prime Minister and others to make a meaningful difference for Jewish Canadians, because I think anti-Semitism in Canada is a problem for everyone. It's a national security issue. It's an issue, a threat to our democracy. And more important, it could happen to any group here. So
to conclude, his decision is to stay on board. So what's the result of all this ongoing tension of, the increased protests here in Canada, the discrepancy in our own parliament of, do we support Israel? Are we against Israel? We stand with the people. We call for peace. Do we support Prime Minister or Benjamin Netanyahu to defend himself, continuously launch these attacks? Where does Canada stand? Well, it's kind of inconclusive right now, but where NATO stands is, just as I said at the start of this video, Canada is pretty much being summoned to war. Let's take a look here at this article right on Radio Canada's website. Thinking the unthinkable. NATO wants Canada and allies to gear up for conventional war. NATO calls for defense industrial strategies, pulls Canada into a conversation it has avoided for decades. NATO says it wants its members to develop national plans to bolster the capacity of their individual defense industry sectors, a concept that Canada has struggled with or avoided outright for decades. This is in reference to how much Canada's GDP actually contributes to our defense budget. NATO has a minimum requirement of 2%. Justin Trudeau has been bragging about the fact that we've brought it up from like 1.2% to 1.5. And he's like, we're almost there. It's something that's similar to those numbers. It's gotten so bad that you have American senators, American politicians that say, literally, they've said this on camera, look, we think Canada needs to do a better job. We don't really make it a habit of trash talking other NATO allied countries, but yeah, Canada needs to pick it up because it's pretty messed up. And this was actually showcased in, I think it's Aaron Gunn's recent documentary film that came out within the past couple of weeks. I highly recommend you guys go watch it. It talks about how Justin Trudeau, the Liberal government, has destroyed our military because now it's time for war. Whether it's fighting for on the sidelines of the allied country Israel, they are NATO, right? They are a part of NATO. Or whether it's fighting for Ukraine, there's two big wars happening, and it seems like every week one of the wars does something that tops the other war, and where our attention is veering from one to the other. But nonetheless, you have an actual article by Canadian subsidized media that's saying that NATO is calling for Canada to prepare for war. Federal officials are just beginning to wrap their heads around the ramifications of the new policy and the burden it could place on the government and Canada's defense sector. So all of the liberals that have said, and all the NDP people that are like, let's give more money to fight these wars. Congratulations. You don't have to give any more money. You just have to give your time and dedication to go and fight the good fight. Because this is the thing. If you're a warmonger, should you? I mean, let's start that question. If you've been pro-war, should you have to go and fight the war if Canada is being summoned? I don't know. But I'll pass the question off to you, because now let's take a look at what Israel just did. They killed off a bunch of leaders of Hezbollah. And this isn't even the final strike. There's a massive one coming later tonight. So, let's take your pick. Take your pick, liberals. Where are you going? Are you going to Israel or are you going to Ukraine to fight on the front lines? The options are there. Here we go. This is a video that I will not be allowed to play due to YouTube's policies. But as you can see, these are strikes that happened from Israel against the Hezbollah command bunker in southern Beirut, resulting in, lots of deaths, but specifically the death of certain leaders. And here's another angle of just how large this is. And like I said, this isn't the big one. It's not the big strike. This was a specific target towards bunkers to get certain commanders. Here's what a little bit of the aftermath looks like. Right? Just one little glimpse into the craters that it has created. Then you have OSINT Defender saying this as a response of what just happened. The Iranian embassy in Beirut has released a statement calling tonight's Israeli decapitation strike against Hezbollah a reprehensible crime, while further stating that it represents a dangerous escalation that changes the rules of the game. And so there you go, right? It's just tit for tat, always amping things up until the point of eventually reaching, civil war in these countries, which seems to be what's happening right now. The people of Lebanon are not happy with this. You have Hezbollah supporters attempted a motorbike parade waving Hezbollah flags, and then the people there basically push them out and chase them off of the streets. So you're having civil war break out in these countries because the people just do not support it. Lebanese sources are also reporting that Hashim Safi, the head of Hezbollah's executive council and considered the number 2 in Hezbollah behind Hassan, was killed in the Israeli airstrike on Beirut. And then you have Hezbollah leader Hassan, so the number 1 and the number 2, potentially killed in an airstrike, which later was actually confirmed that by the Israeli army radio had stated that whoever was in the Hezbollah command bunker at the time of the attack is dead, and that member was confirmed to be dead. So number 1 and number 2 are dead. And then while Benjamin Netanyahu, past tense, while, not as he's still there, but while he was in New York, that's when he gave the green light for the decapitation strike against Hezbollah in Beirut. And since then, he has left New York and returned to Israel. And so as we can see, tensions are gearing up for this weekend. This is going to be insane. And also, this is going to have massive impacts on our economies, right? You've seen, it's super weird because you don't really see like American stock markets, right? Like the S&P 500 and gold prices rise at the same time. Gold has been hitting these all-time highs, which is a massive indicator that we're going into crazy times, because gold is pretty much the hedge against, craziness that happens in the world. So if gold is going up, it means that craziness is happening, which it is. You got all these wars breaking out. People are not trusting, the short-term survival maybe of the economy, of the US dollar, whatever it may be. So they're flocking to purchase precious metals. But this hasn't really had that significant of an impact on the American stock market, which is very, very bizarre, because normally gold goes up, stocks go down, stocks go up, gold goes down. They all, have been going up in the long run, but that's kind of the tit for tat that we've seen. And that's not really the case. Both are going up at very exponential rates. So I don't know what that indicator could be, but maybe somebody down in the comments has some more answers for that. But I just kind of want to pass the question off to you. How do you feel about this? Do you think that Canada is actually going to go potentially through a conscription? Do you think that we are going to be just deploying troops that we have, the very few that we have, to certain areas to fight this fight? What do you think Canada's role in this is going to be, if any at all? But I mean, according to that article, we are being summoned for war. So it's not really a matter of if we're going to war, it's a matter of what is our role going to be. That's where we're going to end this video. On your way out, I would like to encourage you guys one last time, if you haven't yet already, to smash that like button, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Bye for now.